when we get into what is holding space, if you're a yoga teacher, if it's the holding space for your children, if it's holding space when you're in the supermarket. But I would like to define holding space to not enter the other person's room.
Holding space for you means that you're not crossing boundaries into the other person's space.
Exactly.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Awakening Process 101 podcast. I am Pernilla Burke, and I am a photographer and founder of the website, the online spiritual resource called Awakening 101. And I'm here with my best friend, Louise Juel. She's a Buddhist and a yoga teacher living in Copenhagen, and I'm here in Princeton, New Jersey. In our podcast, we discuss topics like spirituality, emotional health and healing, and the meaning of awakening in the context of our modern lives. We share our own experiences and our own process of awakening and the things that worked and the things that didn't work. And our goal here is to spark insights and plant seeds for you on your awakening journey. And today our theme is holding space. So holding space. Why don't we start actually with describing what that means?
Good. I just want to mention that the last episode we recorded was about the space in between. And I think this is funny. Now we're taking holding space. And I think a lot of things in life is about space. The space we create inside, the space that we have around us. And when we get into what is holding space, I think that can be defined in different ways depending on if you're a yoga teacher, if it's the holding space for your children, if it's holding space when you're in the supermarket. But I would like to define holding space to not enter the other person's room. Could you say it like that? Does it make sense?
Yeah. So basically, holding space for you means that you're not crossing boundaries into the other person's space.
Exactly. Very, very spot on, I would say.
Yeah. So why don't we give an example specifically of something that's happened where you sort of step in and you're not holding space. And where does that, when you're not holding space for others?
We're not holding space. Well, it's
very... And where does that come from? Does that because that doesn't come from a place of great awareness and presence. Like when you're
Definitely not.
Forget about a holding space, you're coming from a place of instinct and fear.
Yeah, definitely.
Like wanting to solve, wanting to fix, wanting to control. So it's not a place of surrender.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
And I think what you say there is really, really important. But I mean, the things you mentioned there is so difficult. I mean, I'm not going around being aware and mindful 24 hours or 24. So of course, it's easier for me to hold space for my students when I'm on work, so to say. And I wish I could maybe copy paste a little bit more with my family. But now you mentioned the thing of how to, when I'm not holding space, I think it comes immediately up with my children. I think it's very difficult sometimes to give them the space they need because I'm instantly there and I try to fix them. I try to not have them to feel this, trying to not having to do that. And very often, as you said, it's because I'm not mindful, I'm not present, I'm in a hurry. And that's why, again, it's so important to cultivate conscious awareness as much as we can, because when we don't have the conscious awareness, that's when we're losing it, And I think we also want to say that it's normal to lose it. Like we are definitely not any perfect human beings here, and no one is perfect. But I think that we need to see this as a joyful process and journey, because the more conscious awareness we cultivate, the more we can hold space for ourselves and others.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like if you think about it, maybe I lost it. If you count the 53 years I've been alive, maybe I lost it, a total of 150,000 times. And then on the 151st time, I was able to hold space. So it's not like there was any awareness or any ability to do anything but have a tantrum up until X, like the last decade or so.
Mm.
So it takes time, but I guess if I had known about like a couple of tools to
Mm.
use, then maybe it wouldn't have been 150,000 times. It would have been like 99,000.
Mm.
So I actually just thought of an example that that came out of no awareness really, because James and I, my husband and I, about 15 years ago, when we had just moved to New Jersey and Anna was born and I had a terrible postpartum. I mean, it was like the worst panic attack feeling and insomnia that I had for about a year. It was awful. And we had just moved to New Jersey, and like as we know, like moving is one of the most traumatic. Like it's so like I don't know why, but it's very, very hard. And I had moved from LA where we were for a decade, and then we moved here to New Jersey, and we were fighting a lot, like in the evening, because you're tired, you're fighting, right?
Mm.
So one day, and I don't know, again, I have no idea where this came from because I wasn't aware enough to know why we were always arguing but we decided that, you know what, we're not going to have any serious conversations about schedule or dates or something that happened that was jarring, anything like that after 7 p.m.
No.
And we both agreed. It wasn't like we just said, let's not talk about anything after 7. And literally it was a game changer. Because after we decided that, maybe if we had like 10 fights a week, we went down to 1 fight a week. Because, if you really track back, most couples have their arguments in the evening because they're both tired. And tired is the thing where you could just get triggered from like somebody breathing. You get triggered for somebody.
Also you had a long day and you don't really know what that person has carried for energy and experience during the day.
Exactly. So you're both coming together after a long day, and you're both. So that was sort of, I thought about this morning. It's like we created like a holding space for the both of us. So I wasn't holding space for him necessarily more than he was holding space for me. But because we did that, we held space for each other. And again, it's a game changer. And we still, I mean, yesterday it was our anniversary. We've been married for 18 years.
Wow.
And
congratulations. I went to the wedding.
You went to it. We still don't
do that.
Yeah.
But I have to say
after 7, we're like silent people.
and I have to say that I applied that with my children, because my children has a wonderful, like, first of all, everyone is coming home from activities, and that's quite late. So that could be around 8:30 in the evening.
Yeah.
And then they're all hungry and everything. But then they start to see TikTok and all that shit. And especially Holly's going, can I get this? Can I buy this? I need this. And I said, I'm not relating to anything on the internet or taking any decision to buy anything after 7 o'clock. And I have hold that. And that was you inspiring that to me. And now they know that. And it's like, okay, we take it in the morning. I think it's so great. I love it.
And usually
freedom.
Usually they forget about it.
Exactly. It gets postponed some days. So I would say that getting the sensation that have given me is freedom.
Yeah. So are you holding space for them, or are you holding space for yourself?
I think I'm holding space for myself intentionally, but I'm unconsciously holding space for them as well, because that makes them to step back.
They have to stay back. Yeah.
They have to step back, and then they know that, okay, I can take this in the morning. No one is dying. This is not, so I think that it helps a lot.
When you told me that you wanted to record a podcast on holding space, were there like anything specific that came up for you where you said, I want to talk about this?
No, but I think that, I would say that holding space for me really made sense when I became a yoga teacher. And especially when I also been teaching on the yoga teacher education, where I was specialist in chakra, and I could see which people were there for just performing of themselves, or you can kind of tap in what kind of persons, but I don't want to judge anything, because I think everybody who shows up on a training is there for one another purpose, and it might not come out with what they went in with, but everyone comes out a little bit wiser on themselves, I think. And my therapist, Jamie Clark, when he said, the most, I think what yoga teachers missing, a lot of them, is exactly what does it mean for a yoga teacher to hold space for the students? Because the students are so different and you don't know them. I mean, very often it could be, of course, I have my fixed hold classes, then I know them, everyone, and I know. But when you have random classes where people are dropping in and you have no idea, and I did many retreats with people that I have never seen, you don't really know what is this person coming in for, and is it a lunatic?
Yeah, you never
I don't
know.
want to jump too much, but well, let's take this now. I had a retreat for 2 years ago, and normally it was just people that I know in one way. They came to this retreat. All of a sudden, it was this stranger coming from nowhere, and it was a man. And and I started, my head just, okay, why does he want to come? I tried to investigate a little bit, and without trying to be too obvious in all this. Making a long story short, with all my judgment, being critical and everything, this man comes into this yoga retreat, and he was very special. He looks like Stig Helmer in Sällskapsresan, but and in Shavasana, he was like, snoring like everybody. It's like, and it was a beautiful challenge for me, because I needed to hold his space, but I also needed to not cross the boundaries for the other ones. So of course I needed to kind of wake him up after a while and say, listen, dude, we need to regulate here. But coming back to that, I think that my process of holding space is challenging me, because it helps me to be more compassionate, to really have true compassion for other people, and that respect that each life is worthy, but they are all in different places. And I'm not there to fix them. I'm there to guide them and to hold that space so they can develop themselves and open themselves and look at themselves. So I think that's why I wanted to talk about that, because when you said to me, if it was this summer or if it was even before, you said, I'm holding space for my children. And I think that was also a game changer for me, because I could also see how very often I wanted to fix them.
I know, right?
But if you want to be a good and healthy parent, you need to create that space for them and hold your own space. Of course, they're not supposed to hit each other and throw things on each other, but they have the right to their thoughts and their feelings.
Yeah.
And I think that's the essence of maybe holding space, to give that opportunity to each other.
Yeah. Oh my God, I have so much to say right now. So I don't even know where to begin, to be honest.
So we rewind and you begin where you started the first note.
I'm like, okay? Yeah. So, okay, hold on. I'm just writing things down.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And then, okay, so there's a couple of things that that comes up when I'm talking, and this is the different aspects. Like if I look at a chart, there's holding space in the middle, and then there's the different arrows up to the mind map. And so there's holding space as a teacher. And I mean, I've been to a million yoga classes, and I know exactly when that teacher doesn't know how to hold space and when it doesn't. The difference is the teacher shows up just as late as all the students and just turns on the lights, and the mats are all over the place, and there's just, you put on, they're trying to shuffle to people in the right spot. No holding of space. When I show up, the lights are on, the music is playing, the mats are already out, so everybody knows exactly where they're going. People put their shoes outside the yoga studio, not inside the yoga studio, right? Take off our shoes before we go in. It's so funny. I have a thing about that. So that's one thing. You're holding space as a teacher. Then there's holding space with the people that really matter, like your children and your husband and your parents, and how that changes the whole, because that has a personal effect on you. So it's a completely different holding of the space. And then there's holding space for yourself. So I hold space for Pernilla. What does that mean? And then the fourth thing that I wrote down is like a thing that I actually have been able to understand in the last few years, which is, what is the energy like when I'm holding space for my family? So where should we begin? Why don't
I
we
think,
say,
why don't you start with, because why don't you start by holding space for yourself? Because I think,
okay,
if you
so
don't
that's,
hold space for yourself, you can't really.
yeah. But and also like, I believe that there was never a conscious sort of step process to understanding what that is. Like, I know what that is now, but if somebody had said like 5 years ago, like, so how did you get to this place of holding space for yourself? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So I believe that it's like, it's trial and error and understanding the effect that you have on other people and on yourself. Like yesterday, this is like classic Pernilla stuff, right? Yesterday, Anna's going to this camp in Greece this summer. She wants to be a marine biologist. So she's going to this camp where they do marine conservation. And I couldn't find any flights, and I'm like scared a little bit because she has to fly to Greece by herself. And she has to change planes, and she's only 15. And I was like, oh, and usually I would start the process of frantically looking through every single travel website and every single airline and try to get the perfect match. And so instead, I did the thing that I want everybody to practice. And I was thinking about this morning. It's like, we talk about that a lot here, but it is the best tool to begin the process of holding space, which is slowly breathing in and out through your nose. Instead of doing I did it for a little bit, the frantic checking and trying to find the best option. But then I was like, okay, close down all the windows on my computer, went downstairs, and just that simple act of focusing on the breath coming in and out of the nose, then I was able to hold the space for myself, not to freak out.
Can
And
I ask what happened? What happened when? What was the sensation you felt when you were doing that? Like the act
right,
of shutting
right.
everything
That's
down, and
that's a really great question. And this comes back to our conversations about awareness. I don't, if there's a scientific explanation for this, I'm sure there is actually, and I should look into this, but by connecting with your breath, consciously connecting with your breath, like if you think about that right now, you have the breath coming in and out of your nostril. So just have 3 breaths. In, out, feeling the air as it enters the nostril, feeling the air as it exits, feeling the air entering again, feeling the air as it exits. And you, hopefully, in this moment, have noticed that you are more inside this present moment that you were a minute ago. And then the awareness that we have, the awareness rises into like a bigger space. It is as if, you can imagine yourself stepping back behind yourself So you can see yourself from above and beyond yourself. It's sort of like stepping in to the greater awareness from behind and above. So imagine that you're a bird or something, and you just went up above and beyond yourself, and you have now a greater perspective on this that you are. It's not just what you see in front of your eyes right now. It is a greater, larger perspective on the space around you. And there is stillness there. There is awareness in that space that removes you from the instinct of reacting and fixing. It's a space where you consciously tap into the flow of the universe. So it's the will of the universe that moves us forward. It's not the will of our individual self. So the breath and focusing on the breath, or focusing on the bottom of your feet as they connect with the ground, puts us into this connection with our parasympathetic nervous system, which then creates this space, the greater awareness, where you can see yourself as a small, like it's like you just step into this larger perspective of yourself. So I can give a couple of examples.
Can I just can I interrupt?
Yes.
No, but I think I get it, everything, and I also get when you said I find that something was triggering me, and that's why I wanted to interrupt you when you said that we're tapping into that universal power that's actually bringing us forward, and it's not our own will. But I think that it's so fine because we really on a deep awareness here, because of course our will also move us forward. But I think it's important to know that the awareness is like a sun on my own personal will of what kind of attitude do I have when I'm moving forward. Because I think attitude comes in this. Because of course I can't just sit down and let the universe, I need to do the footsteps. So it's a little bridge between this. That's actually, so when I'm becoming aware of the attitude, then I can move forward aligned with rhythm with the energy of the universe, so to say. But and the other thing is that when we now are listening to this and you're in a pretty calm situation, but back to Pernilla last night being upset, and I can also, this happens to me very often actually, like, I sit and do something, I can just get an email and it's triggering me. And I know,
of course,
I would go down, shut it down and just breathe, but I don't. What makes me not doing that when I know that's the right thing to do? It's that my behavior of addiction, thinking that, I just do this again and it's going to be a different result, because I do it in so many ways and I can see it.
But but then again, like if you think about it, Louise, we're human beings.
Yeah.
And it's like to actually be able to hold space 24/7 is really hard. And we don't really know why we get so triggered. But I think it's the fight or flight that takes over, that somehow you get that email and you're like, oh God, I have to fix this now, So it's a practice. Just like meditation is a practice, holding space is a practice.
Because back to what you just said before, sorry, now I'm interrupting again, but what you just said before, that when you had focus on the air coming in and out through the nostrils, that present awareness that I was, that you talked about and that I could experience in this moment, that's exactly, that's exactly the space I want to be in.
Yeah. So, and that's, I guess, what I'm saying right now. Like, we would hope or wish for the listeners to take this practice, this exercise, and engage with it at home or in situations at home. So, I mean, I think that the first place to try it, or I'm giving you homework, is when you're driving. So, because it's not personal, but it is personal, right? So personal. We humans have a very interesting relationship with driving, and I've worked on this a lot. But I've gone through, so I've been driving my kids to school every morning for the last 12, 13 years. And when they were little, it was chaos. You're always yelling and, come on, let's go. We have to be on time. And, we're from Scandinavia, me and Louise. So being on time is really, really important. And in Sweden, you're never late, even a minute. You show up 5 minutes early. Actually. Yeah, exactly. So it was chaos. And it was chaos, I think. And just me running around like, are you ready? Come on, let's go. For a good 10 years. But not hysterically every day. But then in the last couple of years or so, I'll get in the car, even though it's been a rushed moment inside of the house, and I practice the breathing. And I try, if I'm upset because they're late again, the kids, I practice not speaking, not in a passive aggressive way. Like if they ask me questions, of course I'm answering. It's not like I shut down, but I practice the breathing. And by doing that and getting going and everybody gets settled in the car, they have a chance for space, right? Space in the car. Then in 5, 2-3 minutes, often somebody asks a question about something completely random that has nothing to do with the fact that we were just rushing and yelling at each other, because they've had a space to settle. And me too. I'll be like, oh, by the way, you told me you're going to go do this thing this weekend. Tell me about that. It's gone. So just feeling into the body too, how am I actually, what's happening in my body when I get in the car after it's been a rushed morning. When you're in this tense mode, and just taking that awareness to breathe, hold space for yourself. Like, I know where I'm at right now, and I'm just going to take a moment. Then the kids show up in the car, and instead of why can't you be faster in the morning? What is, you really have to get up earlier, that kind of stuff. It's useless. And I've felt that that after a while, they actually figure out on their own what they're supposed to do. So if we go through the questions, what is holding space? Why do we need it? How do we do it? How do we hold space? And if we hold space, what happens? How does that trickle down into our lives? So I think, Louise, you asked, what was the question you asked? How do I hold space for myself? Did we even answer that?
No, but we didn't really answer that. But I mean, we would start with that, because I think that if you want to hold space at work or with your children or with your family, you need to know what holding space for yourself means. And that
Right.
is a practice. And I think something that just came up to my head that I also was one of the first thing I got to know from the 12-step program was keep your side of the street clean.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, that like if I can do 100% dedicated in any area in my life, if it's doing my laundry, folding the children's laundry, not being upset about the person driving badly, if I can take it back to myself and becoming aware of, okay, maybe I'm just upset and I can be in that, or maybe I can take it one step further down the lane. Okay, I'm upset. Where's that obsession coming from? Depending on where I'm at and how much time I have, or how aware I am. But I think that when we are like, I would draw this line very much to our fellows disease codependency that we have in life. And which everybody, I mean, everybody, but the society is built up of codependency. Holding space would maybe be the opposite of being codependent.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
And I think that it doesn't mean I'm selfish. It doesn't mean that I'm self-centered. This is completely like holding space is something you do with awareness. And it gives you a space of freedom, of acceptance. It gives you a possibility to think out the box, both of why am I reacting of that person saying so to me, or what can I do for that person in front of me to hold the space for that person. If he or her or she is angry, it doesn't necessarily have to do with me, and give the space, maybe step back, say, okay, listen, I hear what you say. And then, of course, as you mentioned with your examples, which I think is great, you're going from the computer, breathing, getting in another setting.
Step away.
Yeah, you step away. And that's what you do when you go in the car too. You had the rough, the stressful morning at home. You step into the car. It's a new, every moment could be a new beginning, but this is a new setting. So it helps us to step away. You said it. I think that's the key.
Yeah, I had 2 examples too, of kind of scary things that happened and that I thought about this morning that I wanted to bring up. And when my husband had a stroke, I mean, I didn't know exactly how serious things were when we arrived at the hospital. We thought he was having stomach poisoning, like food poisoning. But throughout that day, I sat in a chair in a hospital room with him while they were trying to figure out what was going on. And I was able to hold the space. I didn't freak out. I just asked questions. I made sure that he had what he needed. And, I think that like what it did for him is it allowed him to not, I didn't intentionally want to make him feel better, but I think that the energy there was that it didn't scare him. Like if I was a mess because I was afraid, it doesn't help him. So there's a sort of like a fine line there. Like when are you like refraining or holding space in a way because you don't want to scare people? Or when are you doing it because you want to feel like I'm stepping into this awareness behind, and the awareness that is bigger than me, to trust that we're going to be okay. And I actually thought that the whole time, when that whole day, I was like, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. But then I had another example when my mom called a couple of years ago and said that there was something going on with her blood test. Like the iron was very low, and they had taken her to the emergency room in Sweden and to get like an infusion of blood. Like that's what they do, I guess, with low iron. And I completely fell apart and started crying right away because she was in the hospital. And she's like, and I remember she was like, Pernilla, this is not about you. And I was like, oh,
did she say that?
Yes, she did. Wow. She's like, this is not about you right now. And I think that it helps me snap out of it because, of course, like she's there at the hospital. She says, I'm fine. Like, why are you crying?
Mhm.
Didn't help her. And of course, that your mother in the hospital, she's elderly, and I'm not close by, and I can't go there to help her. And it taps into lots of like issues, Pernilla issues. But it's just different sides of the coin.
I think it's very important what you say, that your mother say that it's not about you, because I could also, I mean, I think I hear that very often. Oh, Louise, this is not about you. And even my therapist, sometimes he goes like, Louise, you're not the star of the movie. But I want to be the star of the movie. But
Why? Why do you want to be the star of the movie?
Who doesn't want to be the star of the movie?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some more work to do. No, but I mean, everybody wants. I mean, I want everybody to be the star. Like,
but why?
I think, but you mean because your life is unique and you create your life. I create my life. Like every person is equal in value, and we do have our inner potential that's there to create what we meant to create. So I think that I'm not meaning the star of the movie. See me here. You know what I mean? I mean more to create value of what we have been given.
Yeah, but that's completely different than saying that you want to be the star of the movie.
I know, but that's my star of the movie. I go home and work on that. Let's have that as next topic. I'm the star of the movie. Yeah. I love it.
So let's go back to the questions. Okay, so we
discussed what.
Yeah. So how? Yeah.
And I think also
we talked about how to practice. Yeah, we talked about how to practice this.
Yeah, and you said that, like, you showed us how we could practice it by the breathing and stuff like that. But the thing of step back and change the space is one way to experience of how to.
Yeah. So So for example, but then I thought about changing the space. But what if you can't? Right. So what if, like, for example, this is an easy exercise. What if? So, for example, our friend Amy, our favorite listener, so she's a purser on a big airline here in America, and she tells me stories, especially during COVID, about how to deal with passengers that are cranky. If we were to imagine that situation of holding space, because I guess it's like you come to yoga. If you're like a yoga class, if you're teaching a yoga class, people come to you. They're sort of on a different. They're on a.
They're not stressful businessmen coming there upset because the flight is too late and everything.
Yeah. And it's admirable what she does, because I think that you're forced into having a certain persona or style of communicating with people where you have to let go of your attachment and you have to step back and say, this is obviously not about me, because there's like 400 people on this plane and they all have different needs, and somebody's throwing up and throwing a tantrum because they didn't get the right seat or whatever it is. So just understanding that, like, she can't step away.
No.
But I think that her personality is in a way where she can stand firm and have a constructive conversation with people, even though they're having a meltdown. But that also takes practice. She's been doing it for 40 years. For me, I bring it back to the microcosm of the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody's hungry. We're late. Everybody's.
But that's what I mean, why it's important that you need to learn how to hold your own space first, and what you're bound, like you need to, again, we're coming back to the awareness, because you need to learn how you react in challenging situations, stressful situation. And it's first when you know how you react that you can respond to it.
Yeah. What is it that's triggering me?
Exactly. And how can I change? Like, how can I meet this in with another awareness? Or yeah.
So the thing that I'm thinking about right now, when another sort of holding space, the way I hold space for myself is, and if we just forget about meditation, because meditation is like, of course, one of the things where you learn how to hold space for yourself, because that's what you do, you hold space. But when I started understanding the importance of food and fatigue, when I had kids, I started reading books about how to, like, understanding the routine of the day and the different rhythms, and how a food and water played such a huge impact in a child's day, and how also that affected me. I mean, before I got sober, it was like I had a bagel at 3 p.m. and then pizza, and then, and so it took me quite a while into sobriety also to stop eating Snickers bars and drinking Coca-Cola, or, thinking that pizza was the only thing that you could eat. So now, like, if I'm in the kitchen and I'm starving and I'm about to cook dinner and everybody's there waiting, then I make a snack before we eat dinner, but not potato chips, like maybe, so this is like this. I have to take care of my own state of being. And the first thing isn't meditation. The first thing isn't breathing through the nose. The first thing is have a glass of water and eat something, so that you are able to then take those other steps, because it's taking care of the physical needs for myself and for the people around me first, that leads to that ability to even begin to hold space. Because we all know that when we're in an airport and we just arrive and everybody's hungry, no one can hold space because everybody's hungry.
Yeah.
So I think that's another tool, or really understanding your own rhythm, that we get enough sleep, we drink enough water, we have a routine of our meals throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks if we need them. Like, I'm not talking about a junk food. I'm talking, have some hummus and carrots before you cook dinner if you're so hungry you can't even cook dinner. It's like a palette of holding, like, how can I? But I think for mothers, that's a big one, and I think for anybody, like with work, or it's very hard to be there.
It is, but when you said it just came up to me. I think, I don't know if it was in NA or if it was one of my therapist things, but we had the halt. Like,
we talked about
hungry, angry, lonely, and tired.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And
so that's where it begins.
And I think maybe that's, like, to get to a conclusion to our discussion today, knowing that me and Pernilla are not sitting into all the answers, and we don't have any, master degrees in awareness, but we're trying to cultivate it to the best of our ability. So I think there is a discussion to nurture here. And I think to come to a conclusion here, maybe how to cultivate space from the very beginning in a very easy way is to ask yourself these 4 things. And there's things that you can do something about. Because I think the essence, you say that, you need to drink and you need to eat, and even if you don't eat the biggest meal, but just it's
what is my state of being in the physical, from the physical aspect. And then we move to the tools, as we talked about, stepping away or breathing through the nose. And then starting to practice holding space with smaller things, not like when your husband is having a stroke, but traffic or snippy emails or that kind of thing.
And also, one thing, I think, even when you have a disagreement with someone you're close to or everything like that, maybe it's not about to respond right away. Maybe it's also to, like, if you go to the opposite, what you normally do. Like if you normally just snap off and respond right away, maybe holding space to practice in that would be to, step
Wait.
back a little bit and say, you know what, I will think about it. I get back to you.
Yeah, So I think
Yes.
this is all the time we had, but do we need a more of a recap, or do you think that
I think
did
we
a
did.
good one?
I mean, we went through what holding space is, starting with ourselves, how to do it, why to do it. I think we covered up pretty much everything about holding space.
It was so good. I'm going to go down and eat now so I don't yell at anybody.
I ate before.
Nice.
I know. So I could hold my space. Wonderful.
So thank you, everybody, for listening. And we hope that you learned something today that you can use in your life and that you can engage with. And we hope you come back and listen to our podcast again. And I am Pernilla Burke. And again, I'm here with Louise, Juel Severin. And we thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pernilla.
Hej då.
Let's hold space out there.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. I'll see you.